Hello, and welcome to another video from the YouTube channel, From Religion to Agnostic. Today we will be looking at Havilah the son of Cush. Havilah, Hebrew, Havilah, refers to both a land and people in several books of the Bible, the one mentioned in Genesis 2:10 and 11, while the other place thought to be in Africa and mentioned in Genesis 10:7. In one case, Havilah is associated with the Garden of Eden, that mentioned in the book of Genesis 2:10 and 12. A river flows out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it divides and becomes 4 branches. The name of the first is Pishon. It is the one that flows around the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. Bdellium and onyx stone are there. In addition to the region described in chapter 2 of Genesis, 2 individuals named Havilah are listed in the Table of Nations. The table lists the descendants of Noah, who are considered eponymous ancestors of nations. Besides the name mentioned in Genesis 10:7-29, another is mentioned in the books of Chronicles, 1 Chronicles Hours Minutes 1:9-23. One person is the son of Cush, the son of Ham. The other person is a son of Joktan and descendant of Shem. The name Havilah appears in Genesis 25:18, where it defines the territory inhabited by the Ishmaelites as being, from Havilah to Shur, opposite Egypt in the direction of Assyria, and in the books of Samuel, 1 Samuel 15:7 and 8, which states that King Saul smote the Amalekites who were living there, except for King Agag, whom he took prisoner. One passage mentions Israelites being sent to Assyria and Havilah. According to the monk Antoine Augustine Calmet, Havilah most likely indicates Havilah. Okay, and so I want to pause, let's reflect, and I quote. The books of Samuel, 1 Samuel 15:7 and 8, which states that King Saul smote the Amalekites who were living there, except for King Agag, whom he took prisoner. Okay, so now this is different than sacking cities and killing everyone except the virgins, like we usually see. So the question arises, why did he kill everyone and leave the king alive as his prisoner? Let's look up King Agag, shall we? Agag is a Northwest Semitic name or title applied to a biblical king. It has been suggested that Agag was a dynastic name of the kings of Amalek, just as Pharaoh was used as a dynastic name for the ancient Egyptians. The etymology is uncertain, according to John L. Mackenzie, 1995, while Cox, 1884, suggested high. In the Torah, the expression, its king higher than Agag, and its kingdom exalted, was uttered by Balaam in Numbers 24:7, in his third prophetic utterance, to describe a king of Israel who would be higher than the king of Amalek. This is understood to mean that Israel's king would take a higher position than even Amalek himself, and would exercise a wider authority. The writer uses an allusion to the literal significance of the word, Agag, meaning, high, to convey that the king of Israel would be higher than high. A characteristic trait of biblical poetry is to use puns. Agag also refers to the Amalekite king who survived King Saul's extermination campaign, as punishment for Amalekite crimes, in the book of Samuel. Saul failed to execute Agag and allowed the people to keep some of the spoil, and this resulted in Samuel's pronouncement of God's rejection of Saul as king. Agag was then executed by Samuel, to punish him for his offense of bereaving women of children with the sword. The rabbis taught that the Jews took vengeance on Agag for the cruelties they had undergone at the hands of the Amalekites, who, to mock at the Israelites, their God, and the rite of circumcision, mutilated every Jew that fell into their power. Samuel, they say, treated Agag in the same way. According to some authorities, the death of Agag, described in the Bible by the unusual word vayeshasef, hewed in pieces, I Samuel 15:33, was brought about in a much more cruel way than the word denotes. Others think that the only unusual thing in the execution of Agag consisted in the fact that it was not carried out strictly in accordance with the provisions of the Jewish law, requiring witnesses to prove the crime, nor had he been specifically warned, as the law required. But, Agag being a heathen, Samuel convicted him according to the heathen law, which demanded only evidence of the crime for condemnation, pasik. 3:25b, Pasik. R. 12. 13, and the parallel passages quoted by Buber in Pasik. The execution of Agag, however, occurred in one respect too late, for had he been killed one day sooner, that is, immediately upon his capture by Saul, the great peril which the Jews had to undergo at the hands of Haman would have been averted, for Agag thereby became a progenitor of Haman. Megillah 13a, Tag. Sheni to Est 6:13. According to another midrash, Doeg the Edomite tried to extend the life of Agag, the king of the Amalekites Edomites, by interpreting Leviticus 22:28 into a prohibition against the destruction of both the old and the young in war. Midrash Tehillim 52:4. Doeg is among those who have forfeited their portion in the future world by their wickedness. Sanhedrin 10:1, compare Ibid 109b. Doeg is an instance of the evil consequences of calumny, because by calumniating the priests of Nob he lost his own life, and caused the death of Saul, Abimelech, and Abner. Yor. Pia 1:16a, Midrash Tehillim 120:9, Ed Buber, p. 504. When he received the command to smite Amalek, Isam 15:3, Saul said, "For one found slain the Torah requires a sin offering," Deuteronomy 21:1-9, "and here so many shall be slain. If the old have sinned, why should the young suffer? And if men have been guilty, why should the cattle be destroyed?" It was this mildness that cost him his crown. Yoma 22b, Numbers Rabbah 1:10, the fact that he was merciful even to his enemies, being indulgent to rebels themselves, and frequently waiving the homage due to him. But if his mercy toward a foe was a sin, it was his only one, and it was his misfortune that it was reckoned against him, while David, although he had committed much iniquity, was so favored that it was not remembered to his injury. Yoma 22b, Mk 16b, and Roshi. Harsh as it seems the command to blot out Amalek's memory, its justification was seen in the leniency shown by King Saul, the son of Cush, to Agag, the king of the Amalekites, I Samuel 15:9, which made it possible for Haman the Agagite to appear. Esther 3:1, his cruel plot against the Jews could only be counteracted by another descendant of Cush, Mordecai. Every year, therefore, the chapter, "Remember what Amalek did unto thee," Deuteronomy 25:17-19, is read in the synagogue on the Sabbath preceding Purim, and the story of Saul and Agag in chapter 15 of 1 Samuel is read as the Haftarah. Okay, and now back to Havilah. In extra-biblical literature, the land of Havilah is mentioned in Pseudo-Philo as the source of the precious jewels that the Amorites used in fashioning their idols in the days after Joshua, when Kenaz was judge over the Israelites. There is an extra-biblical tradition found in the Kitab ol-Magal, Clementine literature, and the Cave of Treasures. According to this tale, in the early days after the Tower of Babel, the children of Havilah, son of Joktan, built a city and kingdom, which was near to those of his brothers, Sheba and Ophir. Okay, and now let's pause as I want to reflect. I want to look at where it said, and I quote, "In the early days after the Tower of Babel, the children of Havilah, son of Joktan, built a city and kingdom, which was near to those of his brothers, Sheba and Ophir." So those that have followed or are following the channel and watched the videos to this point will remember we discussed Sheba equals Saba, his brother, yesterday in our video. And so now let's look at Ophir. Ophir is a port or region mentioned in the Bible, famous for its wealth. King Solomon received a cargo from Ophir every 3 years, 1 Kings 10:22, which consisted of gold, silver, sandalwood, pearls, ivory, apes, and peacocks. Ophir in Genesis 10, the Table of Nations, is said to be the name of one of the sons of Joktan. The books of Kings and Chronicles tell of a joint expedition to Ophir by King Solomon and the Tyrian king Hiram I from Ezion-Geber, a port on the Red Sea, that brought back large amounts of gold, precious stones and algum wood, and of a later failed expedition by King Jehoshaphat of Judah. The famous gold of Ophir is referenced in several other books of the Hebrew Bible. In the Septuagint, other variants of the name are mentioned: Ophir, Sophir, Saphir. and Ophir. The New Testament Apocrypha book Cave of Treasures contains a passage. And the children of Ophir, that is, Send, appointed to be their king Lophran, who built Ophir with stones of gold. Now, all the stones that are in Ophir are of gold. And in archaeology in 1946 an inscribed pottery shard was found at Tel Kasil, in modern-day Tel Aviv, dating to the 8th century BC. It bears, in Paleo-Hebrew script, the text, Gold of Ophir for Beth Horon, 30 shekels. The find confirms that Ophir was a place from which gold was imported. Okay, and now back to Havilah. W. W. Muller, in the 1992 Anchor Bible Dictionary, holds that the Havilah of Genesis 2 must refer to a region in southwest Arabia. He locates the reference to a Havilah in Genesis 25:18 as referring to a northern Arabian location. Some have said Havilah were of Cushite background who colonized Arabia, even linking them with the Macrobians. Sodia Gaines' 10th century Arabic translation of the Hebrew Bible substitutes Havilah with Zaylah in present-day Somaliland. Benjamin Tudela, the 12th century Jewish traveler, claimed Zaylah was the land of Havilah confined by Ul-Habash on the west. Zaylah, Havilah, had been sacked by the Portuguese governor of Old Goa, Lopo Soares de Albuquerque, while its Hala chief Mahuz invaded Abyssinia in 1517. In 1844, Charles Forster argued that a trace of the ancient name Havilah could still be found in the use of Aval for what is now known as Bahrain Island. Augustus Henry Keene believed that the land of Havilah was centered on Great Zimbabwe and was roughly contemporaneous with what was then Southern Rhodesia. Havilah Camp was the name of the base camp of a group of British archaeologists who studied the Great Zimbabwe ruins from 1902 to 1904. In the end, they rejected any biblical connection with the settlement. Alrighty, and that will do it for this video. Catch you on the next one. Have a great day, and be safe. If you enjoyed this video, please think about subscribing, as well as hitting the like and sharing would help out a lot. Thank you all, and may the gods guide you in your journey. Stay blessed.